Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw. Today we discuss consistent work, and each of the 3 segments build a little deeper into the topic. So be sure to listen through to the end for helpful tips, tools, and guidance on how to do the work. In the Skylight segment of today's show, we get to chat with High Priestess Liza Castro, known by many as RavenHarte. But before we dive into the Unclouded Heart segment for spirit messages of wisdom, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment within our body, mind, and energy. Take a moment to invite yourself to take some deep and cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, allow your body to relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe. So we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved as we open up space to give and receive. Consistent work. I'm a firm believer in consistent, persistent work. When I teach class, I remind my students that it is the small, intentional actions and choices that make the greatest outcomes long-term in their life. By creating a healthy habit, or even better, a healthy ritual, then that habit or ritual becomes ingrained in our energy vibration. That means when doing the action repetitively, the vibration becomes us. This energy supports alignment with our values and our beliefs. It gives us easier access to seeing future choices and decisions that align with our higher self. And it creates an open space for us to stay in our center if something is introduced that isn't aligned with us. By supporting consistent, persistent work with our soul self and greater source energy, you clear the pathway to your highest and best good. No matter what your belief system is or how it connects to you in your world, I believe if we touch it lightly each day with respect and intent, it will grow and transform into something that fuels us a lifetime. Our connection to ourselves and our source is not something that we do. It is something that we are. If we only touch that source during the times of struggle or times of celebration, then the other 167 hours a week will be living life distanced from a part of ourselves. I also believe that it is small intentional actions and choices that make the difference. We may not all have time for an hour ritual every morning before we start our day. That's why I believe in giving the self grace. It is healthy to know what the minimum we want to do every day may be, as well as what the greatest way we could connect. Then we do what we can within that range. That gives you a tangible way to connect each day, no matter what, without judgment. If you know that every day the least you need is to sit in gratitude practice for 5 minutes, then make that commitment to yourself. What will happen is by doing consistent, persistent work in a space of gratitude every day, then your whole life will be wrapped in a beautiful energy of gratitude because you've spent the time, dedication, respect, and intention to have gratitude in your life. The other thing I want to bring up is I think it's easy to get tripped into creating elaborate connections. My papa once told me, the more things you put between you and spirit are the more things between you and spirit. I think this holds true in our daily, consistent, persistent practice. While it is always great to engage in large ceremony and elaborate spiritual connection, it is the daily touching of your heart energy to spirit that is the fuel that allows those things to become present and beautiful in your world.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Tarot by Sky, because it's your future. Tarot by Sky offers intuitive tarot and energy healing sessions, as well as life coaching, classes, spiritual guidance, and more. Offering sessions via Zoom, email, phone, or in the office in Greensboro, North Carolina, Sky is ready to help you turn change into growth. Book your session today on the web at tarotbysky.com and find her on Facebook and Instagram at Tarot by Sky.
Today, we are honored to welcome Liza Castro to the show. Liza has been the High Priestess of Clann Caladvwlch, a Western mystery tradition coven in Winston-Salem since 1998, and has been facilitator of Climbing the Tree, a 10-month-long spiritual self-awareness workshop series using the Kabbalistic Tree of Life since 2003. She also is near and dear to my heart, one of my soul sisters who I love dearly, and we welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, my dear. Of course I'm here, my sister.
We're going to talk about consistent work today and how using consistent dedication to a practice in small bites allows growth and creation. So when I say this every episode, people are probably tired of me saying it, but every time I try and match a guest with a topic, I try and, see the person who I admire or who I feel like lives that or who is a great example who can be human and spiritual in representation of the topic. And one thing that I always am impressed with is how, whether it is what most people would consider grand, but your minimum or your maximum, you're always touching it in a way that is a great example for people. So I wanted to bring you on to talk about that consistent work.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. So a lot of times during our life, there are those feast and famines when it comes to spiritual practice or what we can put forward. I believe consistent, persistent work really allows for us to take small steps towards great progress. And what are your thoughts on that?
So for sure, we have to take baby steps, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever we change spiritualities or decide that we want to be more connected to spirit, we're always going to have to start from the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. From the ground floor and take those tiny steps. But I think one of the things that people who have been practicing for a long time might emphasize too strongly sometimes about the day-to-day practices that are like more formal, mm-hmm. like the idea that you have to do more formal day-to-day practices, and that the connection to, just the sun or the moon or your own body is those little small bites that you can take when you're in a famine tide, when you're in fallow tide is what we would call it, right. When you're a low period, that it doesn't have to be, I'm either meditating every single day and I'm being consistent with a group work, or I'm, taking my classes or doing whatever it is that I'm trying to do to further my spirituality, or I'm not doing any of it.
Right.
Like there's always some way that you can connect. And that means that you're not in famine.
Exactly.
If you're getting small bites, you're not in famine.
and also if everything is sacred, then right. you don't always have to, have that the saying grandiose connection because, your coffee is sacred, your, morning prayer is sacred, like all of those things, mm-hmm. Washing the dishes, like those things can be sacred and be an act of Absolutely. Spiritual self. So, while there are these times where, grand ceremony is awesome, I love it. we don't have time for an hour meditation every morning or whatever, like a lot of times in our
Exactly.
life. So if I'm touching spirit in everything I do, then my life is sacred. My life is the work.
It's about the mindfulness of it. If you're being mindful that if you believe that spirit is in all things and that you are a living representation of spirit, as we do in Clan C, that we're a spark of the divine, God walking around on this planet, then everything we do is divine. There's no such thing as famine.
Right.
But you have to be conscious of it. You have to let yourself be aware of that. Like the famine comes when you forget that everything you do is creation, is a God creating.
Right.
Right? It's the forgetting that you are the God that is creating all the time. So if you are mindful of the things that you say, the things that you do, that you're constantly doing that from the moment you wake up and even in your dreams, right? You know, some of us are out there on the astral doing what we need to do in our dreams.
Absolutely.
So we're constantly doing the work. We just have to put our conscious mind to the idea that we're doing the work, and then we won't feel the famine.
Exactly. And as you said, if you're taking small bites, you're not in famine. And so that judgment, or, you know, us trying to measure what's, you know, right or wrong or, you know, whatever, like if we tune in that space to say, like, this is what I have to offer today. Today might be 5 minutes, tomorrow might be 5 hours, but this is what I have to offer today. And it comes from my heart and it is with intent and sincerity. Then, you know, that's a bounty. That's full.
And even that, like some people, and even like in periods of my life right now, I would say even that sounds like too much. Like even that, they might say, I don't even have time for that.
Right.
But the 20 seconds that you're like, oh, that's a pretty bird. Thank you, God, for letting me see that bird. Like if you take that minute to just be like, me seeing that in this moment is my divine experience right now, even for 20 seconds.
Absolutely.
That's still you connecting to the divine. But the mindfulness has to be there. You have to remember, you have to consciously remember it happens all the time, all day and all the time.
Right. I agree. For me, like, you know, gratitude practice is one of the things I'll talk about later in the show. But if you approach everything with that heart of gratitude, you know, then that keeps you in that mindful space of seeing everything as sacred.
Absolutely.
So there's a Haitian saying that says, little by little, the bird builds its nest. And I love that when it comes to talking about like doing the work, because if we literally think about how, you know, twig by twig, things are built until we get to this creation. And then honestly, I also believe in spiritual practice, then begin again, you know, like it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so how do you think like that concept plays a role when it comes to building a spiritual practice? So, you know, being a sacred being or being, you know, our soul self on every day, being mindful and present is important. But then there's also, you know, responsibility when we're on a path that says I must, you know, I don't have to do it to my suffering, but if I'm going to go into initiation or create a space of further growth, there are processes that build the nest that is that.
Absolutely.
And so what's your advice on that? How do you feel that plays a role in a deeper spiritual practice or initiation style learning?
So for us, it's about foundation, right? So when you're talking about the bird building its nest, that would be how do we build our foundation? And the most important piece of foundation is yourself and your relationship to yourself. So for us, foundational work has all to do with breaking down all of the pieces about ourselves that we don't feel actually belong to us, right? What can we shed that are ideas or practices that we've adopted because that's what our parents did, that's what our friends did, that was what we were told to do, that's what former spiritual teachers taught us. I mean, there are plenty of things that we are carrying around as baggage that don't serve the spirit being that we are today. And so being able to strip that down and then saying, once you've rid yourself of as much of that as you can, saying, okay, what are the things that are the real me? and cultivating more of that. And again, that doesn't have to be, the process that my initiates go through, going through climbing the tree and spending 10 months with me having to like really break themselves down. But if you're just paying attention to the person that you are and what sings to you and what doesn't sing to you, and let go of the things that don't sing to you, then you build that nest, right? You're building a better foundation under whatever spirituality you want to practice. Because if you don't understand yourself, you'll never find your relationship with God. You're not going to find how you personally connect to spirit. You can connect to spirit. We're all connected to spirit. There is no not doing it once you put your mind to it. But then it would be what you've read in a book and somebody else's practice, or what somebody else told you, and not what really speaks to you, because the authenticity won't be there, because it's not your authentic self connecting.
Right.
So to me, that's when you're talking about the little bird building its nest, that's you building yourself back up piece by piece, so that you're in a place that you can receive authentic connection with spirit again, that you can find it within yourself, know it. And so when you're doing the other work, you recognize it right away, because it sings to you and you hear it. You know what we call the Holy Guardian Angel, the HGA. When that's speaking to you, you know it right away, unequivocally.
Right.
You know, that's the voice talking to you. It's not your conscience. It's not your monkey mind. That is the peace of God that's within your own self.
Absolutely. And I like to remind people, if you don't know where you are, you can't map where you're going. And that like awareness of the foundation of the center self, like right now in this moment, accepting myself where I am, what do I need to shed, what do I need to add, where am I, in seeing myself with true non-judgmental eyes allows me to know the work, and then touching it. And anytime we do anything, if we read a book, watch a TV show, whatever it is in our world, if we're touching something every day, we're honoring it with attentiveness and awareness and intent, and our vibration just immediately will align to that. So if it's spirit, if it's our soul self, if I'm paying attention to myself and, where I am in this moment every day, I align to myself much easier. I become that in that space.
Yep. Because the vibration is easier. It's what they call it, harmonic resonance. So if you've already put yourself into the vibration, everything else that's of that vibration, it's going to speak to you and you're going to hear it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you approach yourself and others with non-judgment when it comes to allowing that process, least I can do, most I would love?
So nobody knows what the divine plan is, right? I don't know what the divine's plan is for me. I don't know what it is for you. And I think I hold a better place of non-judgment for others than I do for myself, because I have my own standards that I want to meet. Because I learned a long time ago, and spirit drove home, because I have a harsh taskmistress as a patroness, that my ego does not matter in the grand scheme of anything. So who do I think I am to judge anybody about anything? Right? So is someone doing the work, not doing the work, even my own students, like, of course, if I can see that somebody might be floundering, I'm going to try to help them. But do I judge them for not, moving along in their degree process, or not getting, all the homework done or something like that? Of course not, because number one, we have mundane lives. None of us are hermits living in, a forest somewhere where we can devote our entire lives to our spirituality. So that is always going to come into play. But I don't know what work they're having to do. And some of that work that is going to end up with a spiritual result might be mundane. So you can't say to someone, you're focusing way too much on your, mundane job. If you think you're going to progress spiritually, you need to be focusing more spiritually, because I have no idea how much of that mundane job is actually informing their spirituality.
Absolutely.
But for myself, I'm way harsher on myself. And I do tend to judge I wouldn't say the amount of time I spend on my spirituality and like how I connect with spirit and my patron and patroness, but I definitely wish I could do more.
Mm-hmm.
And that does come in my monkey brain as judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I have such a demanding home life and such a demanding position at my job, I find myself, all of us long to like read the books I want to read,
Mm-hmm.
buy the masters I want to read, and do the divination and spend more time in meditation. And that will come across in my own mind as judgment. Like, you're the high priestess of a group. You should be doing the hour meditation every single day. But, I also then have to tell myself, is that how I would treat one of my students?
Right.
Is that what I would say to one of my students? And anytime the answer would be no, then I have to, reprimand myself for, like, I can't hold the yardstick higher for myself than I would for anybody else.
Right.
So, and again, it's harder when you're looking at yourself because there's a place of thinking, if I'm listening to my holy guardian angel and I'm following my own vibration, my own soul's journey, then I should know what I need, how many minutes of meditation I need, or how many, this book, I must have this book or whatever, like that. I should know that because I feel like I'm in line with what I'm doing. So if the mundane thing does come up, that usually I then find out was something that was informing my spiritual life, but in the moment you don't know that, then I'm being harder on myself about it because I'm like, but you just said 10 minutes ago that you wanted to do an hour meditation today, and now you're doing this whole other thing that has nothing to do with that meditation that you were wanting to do,
Right.
But we're also very critical of self. And I think people that are at what we would call priesthood level, like any type of clergy person, is going to be that much worse on themselves when it comes to our spiritual lives.
Yeah.
Because, we feel like we have other people that we're taking care of. So if I don't feel like I'm progressing the way I want to progress, then I feel like I'm not serving light the way that I'm supposed to serve light.
Right.
And that's where the judgment would come.
And I just try and combat it, like you said, with empathy, which says, like, I'm still a human. And this is the thing I like to remind myself. The more human I present as, the more I recognize my humanness and my spiritualness, then I'm not something beyond someone else's capability. So when someone looks at me and they're
Absolutely.
like, Sky is human and spiritual, I am human, I can be spiritual, and it allows for that. So I try to use that empathy when it comes to like, today I was going to do X, Y, and Z, and I ended up doing A, B, and C. Okay, like that's what that's what happened.
Exactly.
And just kind of seeing it in an empathetic way where I know I wouldn't shake my finger at someone else if that happened to them. And also it just, it proves we're humans on the planet, and therefore anything that we've accomplished is obtainable by any other human on the planet.
Right. Just from our spiritual perspective, I think that's one thing that's attractive to our spirituality is that we don't put on airs like that.
Right.
And we don't hide behind issues that we might be having. Like my whole group, and probably every person that's ever been in a spiritual group with me, knows all of my things, because I honestly believe what you just said, that if they can see the human Liza, then they're more apt to be able to connect to the spiritual Liza, because they can trust it. I am the person that I say that I am.
Right.
And when I fall down, I'm 100% willing to say, I just fell down, and look at the crazy that just happened because I fell down, but I'm going to get up and you can get up too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a powerful reminder we should give ourselves, like that it's also a gift. Like our humanness is not only a gift to us, it is a gift to the light that we're carrying.
Absolutely, yeah.
So is there anything else that you wanted to bring up about consistent work? Like, what would your advice be to someone, who may have that judgment or may feel like that they don't know where to start a consistent practice?
So first, I think that people that already have a spiritual practice and may be in a place where life has come in, right? Mundane life has come in, need to give themselves a break. Because I think one thing that nobody tells us is just give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you can only go so hard on any topic. It doesn't have to be your spiritual work, but your mundane work, whatever it is, you can only go so hard on it for so long. And the universe is going to make you find balance. So if you're in that place where suddenly it's a full stop, and like COVID did that to all of us, gave us full stop. Some of us figured out how to persevere, but it had to be reshaped. And sometimes it isn't a full stop. It's a moment of reshaping and figuring out what your next steps are going to be. But you have to take that pause when it comes, because that's supposed to be your sign to say whatever you were doing wasn't serving the path that you were trying to be on.
Absolutely.
So here's your breaks. Look at these breaks that the universe gave you and figure out why. Why is it you just need a rest from all of it? Sometimes we just need to rest. Nobody said, even God rested, right?
Well, I like to remind people in music, like the pauses in music is what makes the rhythm. If it was constant notes, if there wasn't, a count to the beat, if there wasn't a pause in the note, in the, music, then it would just be all jumbled up on each other and it wouldn't be able to be the same. So there'd
be no melody.
There'd be no melody, and so those pauses are imperative in so many things.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're meant to be like doing, when sometimes.
Well, when the entire planet takes a pause, like we're in that pause right now. Winter is a period of contemplation and rest. Do we do that? No. How many people made New Year's resolutions and started New Year's resolutions on the 1st?
Right.
It is the period of rest, people.
Right.
We're not supposed to be doing that work right now.
Right.
So like the idea that we're supposed to, and I'm like the worst one. Anybody that knows me that listens to this is going to be like, when does she ever rest? That's a lie. But I do rest. True. Sometimes I do. But if you're trying to, so you also had asked about people that were like just starting the journey. So sense of self, that's where all the work should begin. If you're a beginner and you're looking at books, then the books that are going to serve you the best are the ones that start with working on yourself and figuring out who you are and what path you want to take and where your interests lie, and letting yourself shape your own journey. Don't let other people shape it for you, because I find like that's a problem that we're having in the pagan arena now, because unlike back in our day, there's so much more information that people can lay their hands on, that a lot of the foundational work is lost in that. And so they're jumping right in practices that we would consider for advanced people. And that a lot of the books that are out there were meant for advanced people, were written as field manuals for practitioners, not as, primers for beginners. So making sure you're doing the work on self first, because your connection to the divine is about you and nobody else.
Right.
So that's where I would start is figuring out, who are you?
Right. And that's, creating the container of self, because whatever we dump out and whatever we put in, the container of self is really important. If, we create that sturdy self, then it's easier to discern what is too much or what isn't too much. It's easier to be able to say what this sounds and feels and aligns with me, versus like, that's what the person said, so I'm just going to do it. And that's a big part to me, as far as that's, that sense of self allows for us to have self-trust, which says like what feels right, what doesn't feel right, what sits in my energy,
really
what
resonates. And when you're talking about that, not to forget that when you've been practicing for a long time, spirit is going to try to break you. That there is going to come a point in your spiritual life that you're going to feel like, hey, everything is champagne and roses. I've been doing pretty well. I'm in a pretty good space. And that's usually when spirit is going to try to smash that down.
Begin again.
It isn't about, right. Begin again, because it isn't about, and like you can look at it as well, I've gotten complacent, and so things need to be shaken up a little bit. And that is probably true. There is probably a little truth to spirit saying, hey, don't rest on your laurels for too long. But I think more it's about that we get stagnant in our growth. And we've learned all the things that we were supposed to learn. And so that shape of self has gotten too set. And it's not being the willow anymore. It's not being ready to bend as it needs to bend because you've been in a particular vein for too long. And so the only way, and now mind, usually we get plenty of signs that we are supposed to start doing something else before we get smashed.
That's true.
Right? But most of us aren't paying attention to it because we're too comfortable in the lane that we're in. So we're like, okay, yeah, I got that little ping. I heard you, but I'm like here now. And it's, I'm on the beach and it's sunny. And so I want to stay here. And so, okay, now the hurricane's here because you didn't pay attention. But usually that's about when Spirit's trying to break you, it's because it's trying to mold you into the next thing you're supposed to be.
Right.
So probably 10 or 15, no, maybe 20 years ago at this point, I had a really dark night of the soul. And I remember thinking to myself, I have done everything you have asked of me. I have every spiritual ping, every direction I was sent in, everything that you asked, I did, and here I am. And I had to say to myself, what do I teach about soul? And we believe in soul groups, and that you reincarnate with a soul group that everybody's got their own role to play as you incarnate. Right. And how does that manifest itself? And I said, in that, if I have put particular things in my path because I need to grow a certain way, or you need to grow a certain way, or, I'm the collateral damage because you have to grow this way, whatever it is. And that's what I'm going to teach, is that's our belief that we are all incarnated together so that we can each do what we need to do to achieve the next vibration. Then I cannot pay it lip service when I'm the one that's getting beat up on. And I'm the one that's in what we call it the rumble strip. When I'm in the rumble strip on the road getting beat up on because I, number one, put that in my path because I needed it for some reason. And if I happen to be collateral damage, then that's what I chose to do for this incarnation because somebody else needed to learn the lessons they need to lead. And that isn't spirit punishing me. That is part of the path that I need in my path to do my work, and other people around me needed it for their work. And so I got to stop belly aching about it. And that's pretty much how I worked myself through that, was to say, this isn't me being punished, and it isn't about, well, I gave you so much, so how are you taking away from me now? Right. It's all about, if I'm going to continue to grow, then these things are going to continue to happen. And I'm going to have, the wheel is going to be high, and I'm going to be happy, and all things are going to resonate with me, and then it's going to turn low, and I'm going to have a world of crap again. And that's just how it's going to be. Especially if you have told spirit that's what you are open to receive.
Audrey and I just actually were having a conversation very similar to this, because I was saying I have to honor those times of struggle in my life as much as I honor the times of glory, because both made me who I am. And
yes. And usually, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I deny that one part of myself, or try to, shed that connection to who I am now, then I deny a part of who I am.
Yeah, and we learn the most from adversity. We tend to learn, unless you really embrace gratitude and mindfulness, we don't learn as much from the boon and blessing as we do from fallow tide. Right.
And it's just human nature. Humans are the only self-sabotaging creatures on the planet. So we believe that is the easiest way to learn because it's the loudest. And so unless you've already gone through a really elaborate spiritual practice, it's the loudest where you're going to learn. So it's kind of a cat chasing its tail. When we're at this point of receiving in pure quiet, then we've usually gone through all the rumble strips, as you were saying.
True. I mean, and that's what the rumble strip I teach people. When you're on your soul's journey, as soon as you hit the rumble strip, that's when you have to correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you say, okay, I'm starting, like, I was getting boon and blessing, boon and blessing, boon and blessing. And then all of a sudden, I kind of started to waver. And then all of a sudden, things started to go sour. Okay, well, if you stop then and you say, okay, where did I make the left turn when I should have made the right turn? You will probably realign yourself with your soul's purpose.
Right.
But if you continue to ignore it, and mind, sometimes we're not in a place where we can pay attention to it, and you're just going to run straight off the cliff because the rumble strip didn't even matter. But when you can pay attention to it, that's where you have to bring your mindfulness practices in to say, I recognize I'm somewhat out of kilter. And so what do I need to do? And that's a conversation between you and your holy guardian angel or your whatever your prayer practice is for you to connect with the divine, whether that's divination, whether that's chanting, it doesn't matter. Go to that place where you can then allow the divine to speak back to you, because a lot of times we do a lot, especially in the pagan arena, we have so many tools to allow spirit to speak to us because we're open to that. Other spiritualities do a lot of praying and don't have a lot of tools to receive any answers back. We have thousands of ways to get answers and do very little praying.
Well, and
we're kind of the opposite.
And the truth of that is, you also, to circle it back around to knowing the self, you also have to be able to listen, because you can hear all day long. You can use every tool in the toolbox. But if you aren't willing to listen to whatever the message is and follow it, whether you like it or don't like it,
exactly,
then, it's kind of empty hearing. And so that's the other part where, we can trick our human mind. It's another human tendency. Like, we did a thing, so then the thing should happen, instead of go, well, yeah, I did the act of the thing, but did I receive the thing into me? Did I really connect with the thing? Did I hear it? Did I become the thing? So that way I can move forward, versus just that, like, oh, I did these 3 things, so now everything should be fine. Bypass.
Right. And when you pull the tower, you got the tower. Don't go back in the deck and pull something else.
Right.
Now, if you don't understand why you got the tower, sure, pull a clarifying card.
Right.
But don't replace the tower, because guess what? You got the tower.
Yeah. Just because you put it in denial does not mean it's not happening.
Right. And the other part of that, when I was saying about prayer, is that we tend to forget that we can ask the divine for things. And I'm the worst for it, because I think it's when you're doing work on self, constantly doing work on self, there's a part of you that believes, well, I'm supposed to be aligning my vibration with the thing that I want to get. So if I want the thing, I need to keep doing the work for the thing. I can't ask the divine to help me get the thing. And that's folly.
Right. Well,
right there is folly. If for us to be able to have a working connection in our own psyche, for our subconscious mind to believe that we have a connection to the divine, we have to believe the divine will serve us.
Exactly.
The same way we serve it.
There's a Haitian saying that says, God says, meet me halfway and I'll see you there.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Sums it right up.
So I would talk to you for 5 hours, but to keep this in a reasonable alignment of time, I'm going to move on to the questions that I ask each guest, and you've talked a little bit about each one of them. So the first question is, what do you think it means to be your soul?
For me, that's to be my authentic self. And I say all the time, to live my truth out loud and proud. So
I love that.
Because I've peeled the layers away, and I'm constantly doing that work never stops. But once you have a good idea of who you really are and what energy you want to be aligned with, being true to that as much as I possibly can, whether that hurts feelings, whether that loses me friends, whether that, like, I had to learn the hard way that my patroness, the Morrigan, does not care if I have any friends or family around me at all. So I just have to, I know that I represent shadow and I tend to mirror people's shadow to them. And that's uncomfortable and people don't like it, but that's how it is. And I know that I serve that energy the best. So it's just being authentic.
Absolutely.
That's my soul. So that's who I am.
Absolutely. So what is one thing you do no matter what to be sure to get your self-care every day?
So this is where I will get the bad priestess bad because I think, see the self-judgment? See, it's right there. I was trying to think of like, what do I do every day? And I don't really have, like, I don't do a specific practice every day. I don't pull a card. I don't, meditate. I never really have. Like when I was an initiate going through the degree process, I followed all the steps and did everything I was supposed to do. So if we were supposed to do lesser banishing pentagram every day, then I did that every day. If we were supposed to do whatever, and of course I did all of that. But as a practice that I maintained, I felt better about going with what I might need in the moment. And lately, what I've really needed in the moment is hugs and cuddles.
Aww.
So if I do anything every single day for self-care, it is putting my sweet baby granddaughter down for a nap and cuddling her.
I think that's the best answer. That is not a shaking finger bad high priestess. That is good. No,
I sing to her and I cuddle her and I rock her to sleep at night and for her nap during the day. And I do it every single day and it brings me peace and joy. And so that's my self-care at the moment.
That is beautiful. I take back that bad priestess that you said. So what does feeling centered and balanced look like in your life?
For me, I find the most centering and balance when I'm with my coven and we are all together in the center of our circle, because we have a saying where like that basically says we together are stronger than we are apart.
Absolutely.
And so when we're together, I feel the most strength and balance and peace of any time in my life, because I feel them. It's not just me, it's all of us together. Like, and because we have the connection to each other, you can reach beyond that into the collective unconscious and like really feel the connection to everything, to life. And so I wouldn't say I'm bad at it, but it takes me a lot more time and energy and effort to connect to the all by myself. And so I can, because I've, spent years and years practicing it, but I feel a lot more, it happens a lot more quickly when I'm with people that I have spiritual commune with. So like even you and I went together just holding hands for a couple of minutes, I will immediately feel that sense of balance and peace because I can feel our connection and that helps me feel a greater connection to the all.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really where my best centering and balancing comes from, is being connected to others that I have spiritual, connection to.
It's very similar for me too. That speaks to me because I definitely know that when I feel like I plug into a puzzle that makes a beautiful picture, then I feel the best version of me, the most centered, the most aligned. It was so great to spend some time with you. I really, really am honored and grateful that you brought your wisdom to the show and me.
Thank you.
Can you let our listeners know how to find you or anything upcoming that they may enjoy?
So Clann Caladvwlch is on Facebook, and I think the links are going to be in your wherever, all the places. The links will be in all the places. RavenHarte, RavenHarte at AOL.com is where anybody can send questions if they want to know more about us. If they want to know, we're planning 2 circles this year that we are planning to do invite open. So if we're not going to publicize it, but if they email me, we could give them information on that. And Facebook and our website.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We also want to send a warm ray of gratitude out to our listeners. Thank you, dear listener, for choosing to connect with us today. Be sure to listen through as the next segment brings forward tools and tips on how to do the work.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Little Energies, a children's chakra-aligned oracle deck. Little Energies is made specifically for children to learn and support their own healthy energy system. These 24 chakra-aligned oracle cards focus on energy wellness through mantras, exercises, and envisioning. Find more information at littleenergies.com. That's LITTLEENERGIES.com.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. This week, we will work on creating a daily gratitude ritual. By creating energy-focused choices, you can create an energetic reality that your physical actions will then be more comfortable following. Space will open up for you to gain positive achievements with a greater ease, and solutions will seem within reach. Having a base energy of gratitude allows for highest and best energies to be achieved. What is gratitude? Gratitude is an openness to appreciate life as it is in this moment with kindness. While we often think of gratitude as an act, it really is an energy that forms from our heart center. We may be able to show our gratitude through an act of kindness or a gift, but feeling our gratitude should be our priority. We're going to create a gratitude ritual in order for us to tune into the energy of gratitude on a daily basis. For this exercise, you will want your trusty journal and favorite writing utensil, as well as a Sharpie, white glass pillar candle, and something to light it with. If you don't have a white glass pillar candle, you can find them in most dollar stores or at your favorite metaphysical shop. As you may have heard me say before in the past, it takes 21 days to create a habit, so we're going to break this down into 3 7-day periods of time. The first 7 days, we're going to work on cultivating the feeling of gratitude by taking 5 or 10 minutes each morning just to reflect on what we're grateful for. While we may be able to write a list like clean water and a healthy breakfast, we want to really think about those things in a way that invokes a feeling in our heart. While we know in our logical mind that we should be grateful for clean water, does that gratitude erupt from our heart when we turn on the spigot? Can you tune into your heart center, recognizing that it is from this point that your gratitude flows? Can you try to connect the feeling of gratitude in your heart to the act or thing that you're grateful for? Each morning, just journal for 5 or 10 minutes what you're grateful for, trying to feel the gratitude in your heart as you journal. The second set of 7 days, we're going to try and tune into approaching gratitude throughout the day in a healthy, heart-centered way. Using the prompt that you journaled previously, assign yourself one act each day that you're going to consciously make space to connect with gratitude for. For example, you might say, Monday, each time I turn on the spigot, I'm going to sit for a moment in gratitude that I have clean water. This promotes taking each day's assigned action into our energy with intentional, heart-centered gratitude. You want to choose small, common occurrences that you're grateful for, that you're touching often and with intent. If we train the energy system, our thoughts, and our actions to interact with turning on the spigot in gratitude, then gratitude will just flow like the water coming out of it. So, for the second set of 7 days, we will concentrate on one gratitude focus per day and put our gratitude into practice. The last 7 days is when your candle comes into play. Using your journaling from the first 7 days and our gratitude actions from the second set of days, we want to pick 7 base needs that are being met for which we are grateful. For example, if one of your gratitude focuses was on your beautiful home, then we would transfer that into feeling a sense of security. Or if you were grateful for having a job that paid well, you would transfer that into having the opportunity to be prosperous. Using that process, you want to come up with 7 short sayings that encompass your overall gratitude for life. Once you've determined those 7 sayings, you want to take a Sharpie and write them on the outside of your pillar candle. For the next 7 days, you will light the candle for at least 7 minutes while reading the sayings and opening your heart to gratitude. If you feel called, you can create a sacred space for this candle, or decorate it however you feel, or add it to an existing altar. You also don't have to stop this practice after 7 days. It may be one of the things that you want to keep in your daily rituals from here moving forward. I would also say that as you grow and expand, the view of what you're grateful for may grow and expand as well. That means you may want to touch back on this exercise every so often. For me personally, I know that having a gratitude practice is not only self-supportive, but it's imperative to my energy and the work I do in the universe. I still reflect on the shift that came when I graduated from doing acts of gratitude to living a grateful life. May you be well, may you find peace, may you be blessed, and may you feel whole.
If this exercise spoke to you, then you'll love our Patreon subscriptions, where you'll find video tutorials, guided meditations, PDF worksheets, and more. It's master-level exercises each month for less than the price of a bath bomb. Patreon is a great way to show your appreciation for the hard work and dedication that goes into bringing these messages to you. You can find all our episodes, our Patreon link, guest information, the virtual classroom, and more on our website, beyoursoul.org.